Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video we'll be looking at some of the players that stood out in Game Week 8 and some of the players that disappointed. We'll be looking at their stats in Game Week 8 and assessing if they're good buys ahead of Game Week 9 and onwards. Let's take a look. Let's start with Bukayo Saka. Bukayo Saka was a major doubt ahead of Arsenal's away game against Bournemouth in Game Week 8. After Arteta's comments about Bukayo Saka before the game, a lot of managers kept faith in Bukayo Saka and kept them in their team. But unfortunately he wasn't available to play and is still an injury doubt ahead of his game against Liverpool at home. Fortunately for FPL managers, Arsenal have a Champions League game in the midweek, which means that we'll be able to see if Bukayo Saka is available to play in the Champions League game. If he starts the game or maybe gets subbed on, then there's a big chance he will be starting against Liverpool at home. Another factor that needs to be assessed is that Arsenal's fixtures for the next 3 game weeks are looking very difficult, with Liverpool at home and then a trip to Newcastle and Stamford Bridge. It might therefore be a wise move to get rid of Bukayo Saka for these upcoming game weeks, just like nearly 230,000 people already have. In my opinion, Bukayo Saka is definitely transferable. With the injury doubt and the upcoming fixtures, I definitely see some people that will be able to outscore him over the upcoming game weeks. Let's take a look at one of the candidates. Heung-min Son marked his return to Tottenham's starting lineup with a goal against West Ham in their 4-1 win. It was nice to see Son Heung-min back in the starting lineup for Tottenham, as he is definitely their most attacking option up front. His return to the starting lineup has caught the eye of a lot of fantasy Premier League managers, with already around 170,000 people transferring in already. With Tottenham's upcoming fixtures, you could potentially see him score big against Crystal Palace away, Aston Villa at home, and Ipswich at home. And don't forget, he's also on penalties as well. A solid strategy for FPL managers could be to sell Bukayo Saka ahead of Game Week 9, bring in Heung-min Son and then keep him for the upcoming 3 game weeks, and then transfer back in Bukayo Saka when Tottenham face Manchester City away and when Arsenal's fixtures turn good from Game Week 12 and onwards. With Spurs' upcoming fixtures, their attacking potential, and the fact that Heung-min Son is also on penalties, I do see him as a good buy ahead of Game Week 9. William Saliba is currently the most transferred out player ahead of Game Week 9, as he brought down Evan Nilsson as the final man in Arsenal's defense. Currently, more than 380,000 people have already transferred him out, since he will miss both Liverpool at home and Newcastle away, before returning against Chelsea away. The Arsenal defender is probably an easy sell ahead of Game Week 9, but this will also have a very negative impact on the rest of the Arsenal defense. Him and Gabriel have started every Premier League match so far this season, and their defense simply isn't as good when Saliba isn't in the team. As mentioned with Bukayo Saka, Arsenal's fixtures turned good when they faced Nottingham Forest at home in Game Week 12 and onwards. But I probably wouldn't be bringing in William Saliba anyway. Arsenal's defense is one of the best in the league, but you would also like him to be an attacking threat as well on set pieces, but that is simply not the case so far this season. He hasn't had a single shot on target so far, and Gabriel, his partner, is simply so much more a threat on set pieces. I would therefore be bringing in Gabriel if I didn't own him already, and otherwise I'll be looking at some of the other Arsenal players instead. You could also bring in another in-form defender in the same price bracket as William Saliba. Let's take a look. Joshua Gvardiol scored for the second time in only 3 game weeks, as he backed himself 10 points after scoring a screamer outside the box with his weak foot. This has resulted in nearly 220,000 managers already bringing him in ahead of Game Week 9. The immediate fixture in Game Week 9 is very good with Southampton at home, but afterwards the fixtures for at least clean sheets doesn't look too good, with Bournemouth and Brighton away before they have Tottenham at home and Liverpool away. Besides that, there's always going to be the risk of rotation when you're dealing with Manchester City players, especially with Gvardiol's case when Nathan Ake is returning to the team, which he will shortly do. If I owned him already, then I would definitely keep him, but if I didn't, I wouldn't be in a rush to bring him in. Instead, I would probably be looking at his much cheaper alternative on the right hand side in Rico Lewis, who has risen in price but is still only 4.8 million. Another thing to consider with Manchester City is that they haven't been able to keep a clean sheet since their Game Week 1 win against Chelsea away 2-0. I do believe that their defensive structure is slightly compromised when Rodri isn't playing ahead of them. They're definitely conceding a lot more chances and goals at least. To sum it up, Gvardiol is probably the most consistent for defenders in Manchester City, But combining his price, Manchester City's defense so far, and their upcoming fixtures, I probably wouldn't be rushing to bring him in. The same thing can be said about Liverpool's Luis Diaz. He's been transferred out by around 187,000 after starting on the bench for the second game in a row. Luis Diaz had an electric start to the season and is having to share his minutes with Cody Gakpo on Liverpool's attacking left-hand side. Managers are also looking at the fact that they are facing Arsenal away in the upcoming game week, but the 3 game weeks afterwards aren't looking too bad, with Brighton at home, Aston Villa at home before they have a trip to Southampton. But as an FPL pick, you want players that get consistent game time, which Luis Diaz isn't giving you right now. So you're probably having to look elsewhere for players that are getting 90 minutes or thereabouts in the same price bracket. Bryan Mbeumo is turning out to be the mid-priced midfielder of choice, as his price is now at 7.5 million and still increasing. He was relatively quiet at Old Trafford and didn't really manage to be so involved in the game, but Brentford's upcoming fixtures are very good, and you could potentially see him score a lot of points with goals and assists. Mbeumo is the talisman for Brentford and is getting 90 minutes nearly every game and is on penalties as well. If Mbeumo isn't already in your side, then now is definitely the time to bring him in, as they face Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton and Leicester in their upcoming 5 game weeks. And I believe that Mbeumo is that good that he could be a set and forget in your FPL teams. That was my Game Week 8 reaction and my Game Week 9 preview, based on the most transferred players ahead of Game Week 9. If you like the content, then please like and subscribe. Comment if you're going to bring in any of the transferred players, and I'll see you next time.